Hello and welcome back to Good Teaching. I'm your host, Dr. Toyin Alli, and this is the podcast where we ask college instructors what are their most effective teaching strategies. And today I have a very non-traditional teaching strategy to share with you today, and that strategy is empathy. So something I've really been thinking about this week specifically, and I'll give you the background to why, but it's this concept of how our students are actually way more important than the curriculum or the content that we teach in our classes, right? The content will always be there, but our students are human beings who go through things and they need care, they need attention, they need to be engaged, and they need to know that you've considered them. So last week at my school, we had two tragedies. Two students passed away, one very violently, and the whole campus kind of went into a pause because it was a devastating loss, and I immediately emailed my students and let them know that my heart goes out to them and their classmates, and the university actually canceled class on Friday of that week. So everything happened on Wednesday, Thursday, and then classes were canceled on Friday. So I immediately looked at my schedule and I thought, oh my goodness, okay, well, if classes are canceled on Friday, that means I can't cover the things that I need to cover in my class to stay on track with the schedule that I created for this semester. I was like, you know what, it's no big deal. There's some extra time I had in for test reviews. I'm glad that class is canceled. We need time to process this. But classes did resume this Monday. And so as I was sitting down about to make my announcements for the week, because as I mentioned in a previous episode, I always write out a whole week's of announcements and post it for my students. That way students who want to get ahead can, especially if they have a busier week coming up. So I was looking at my course schedule and thinking about the content that I need to cover, and I was looking at my learning management system, cursor blinking, and I'm about to write the announcements, and I was thinking, okay, I really think my students need to process the events that are happening. We do have spring break the very next week, so what if we just had a really light week? So what I decided to do was cancel my quizzes. So I give a quiz every single week in my classes. I was like, we don't need to have a quiz this week. Canceled my quizzes. I canceled anything that had a due date, or at least pushed it back until after spring break. So literally my students' only responsibility for the week is, if they feel like they can, come to class, take notes, listen, engage in class if they feel like they can, but there's not going to be any hard deadlines for the week. And anything that is due, I'm going to be very flexible about it. In one of my classes, it's a flipped class, and so students submit pre-class assignments before class every single day just to verify that they watch the videos. I'm just going to give everyone 100% for submitting, and I will also accept the assignment late this week. So yeah, I email my students, I posted the announcement saying, okay, we are going to take some time to process. We are going to have an easy week. I've canceled all the quizzes. I've pushed the due dates back. And also I realized, because I typically give quizzes on Fridays, if I'm not going to have a quiz on Friday, students likely are not going to come to class, especially the Friday before spring break. And my department actually has a culture of not canceling classes. Instead, we just reach out to other people in the department, send out a mass email, and ask if anyone would be willing to cover our class. And that happens pretty much 100% of the time. If I can't be in class, someone else will cover my class and teach it for me. So we're almost never canceling our math classes. And so I thought about it. I was like, I think I'm going to cancel Friday's class. And so I did. And I think my students really appreciated it. And one thing that I did find out is in one of my classes, I had a student who was in the room with one of the students who passed away this week and was actually quite close to that student. So that student is likely having a very hard time, and I did not want that student to feel stressed about this week before spring break. I had another student whose parents didn't feel safe with her staying at school. And she's from out of state. And she let me know that her parents wanted her to come home. And I said, that's totally fine. We have video lectures. Follow along in the workbook if you can. If you have questions, you can set up virtual office hours with me. And so I was able to support my students. So what I'm really trying to say in this episode is that it is really important to show your students that they have been considered, that you have empathy for what they're going through, and to really take a pause when you need. When something very tragic happens, our students are so much more important than the content we have to cover. And when push comes to shove, there's some topics in the class that just don't have to get covered, or they don't have to be covered as in depth as you normally would cover them. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm having a very easy week with my students this week. I let them know on Monday. I was like, you all saw my announcements, but I think would make the most sense if we had a fairly chill week. And I let them know that they can reach out to me. I also gave them links to counseling services on campus and other resources that could be helpful for them. Okay, so that is just one way that I am considering my students and valuing them over the content that I teach. And this is something that I do anyway, whether there's a tragedy happening or not. In the middle of the semester, I always like to get a pulse check and just see how my students are doing, how they feel about the class. I like to do a mid-semester survey and ask the students, okay, well, which parts of the class are you enjoying most? Which parts of the class are you enjoying least? Which parts of the class do you think help you learn the content more? What would you like to do more of? What would you like to do less of? If there's one thing that you could change about the class, what would you change? And then also, very importantly, I always ask, how are you doing? Is there anything you want to tell me? Anything that I should know? And students might say, oh yeah, I've been having a hard time. I'm taking care of my grandmother, or I have a job that I've been working. And so that's a lot of context that I get from my students from that survey. And then the best thing that I do with that survey is I analyze the results and actually make changes to my class. Whether they're minimal or not, the students so appreciate you considering their feedback and them knowing that they can make a difference in their classroom experience. So I always talk to the students about the results, and I let them know what things can be changed, what things can't, and actually why some things are in place that they may or may not like. And I found that not all professors are doing this. Not all college instructors are surveying their students in the middle of the semester to get a pulse check or a vibe check, or have an excuse to change things around in the class. And I think it's really, really important. I actually got a message from someone on Instagram when I was talking about mid-semester surveys, and I was like, I'm writing my next mid-semester survey. Do you implement those in your semester? And someone said, yes, only because you mentioned it and you told me about it. And I was like, how did you feel about it? She was like, it's so good. It's such a great strategy. And so I wanted to share that I will be hosting a workshop in March, which should be about the middle of the semester for you, all about mid-semester surveys. And so basically I'll walk through the strategy of implementing a mid-semester survey and how to analyze the results of the mid-semester survey, as well as how to identify which things can be changed in your class and how to implement those changes. And so not only will we talk about all the things surrounding the mid-semester survey, I will also give you templates. So all the emails I send to my students with the language that I use around mid-semester surveys will look at my own personal mid-semester surveys as well as the responses and talk about how to analyze them. And I will share which things I actually change in my classes. And so you'll get those email scripts, you'll get a script to say live in your classes, as well as templates and questions for the actual survey. So if you head to my website, drtoyinalli.com/mid-semester, you will find how to join that live workshop. And there will be a recording. So if you can't make it that day, I would recommend still signing up. I will send the recording as well as all of the resources. And if you are unsure if this is for you, I would say it's for you if you don't quite love how the semester is going. Having a mid-semester survey and then making changes after is a great way to kind of get a redo on the semester and get a fresh start without looking incompetent or unorganized in front of your students. Your students are just like, oh, well, my professor listened to me. Thank you so much. They'll be so appreciative. Another reason why you might want to implement a mid-semester survey is maybe you're teaching a new course for the first time, or this is the first time you're teaching your course in this way, and you want to figure out how it's landing on your students. And if you need to make any adjustments, this is a perfect time to do it in the middle of the semester. There's so much time left in the semester to implement those changes. Also, if you've been teaching for a very long time, like more than 5 or 10 years, and you're really realizing that the students you're teaching now are quite different than the students that you have been teaching 5 or 10 years ago, and you're not sure what's working well for them, it's a great opportunity. Take some time, get their feedback through this survey, and then make updates and just get more understanding of who this group of students are. And then finally, a more self-serving reason you might want to attend this live workshop is to improve your end of semester course evaluations. What I found is that even if you're having like a disaster of a semester at the beginning of the semester, if you implement a mid-semester survey and change some things to make the experience better for the students will either, one, forget how awful the semester was at the beginning, or two, acknowledge that you are a great listener and you actually care about your students and you made the class better. And that results in more positive course evaluation. So I love doing a mid-semester survey in my classes. So if you want to start implementing more empathy in your classes, if you want to understand your students more, and if you want to like change things around in a very strategic way, definitely check out my website, drtoyinalli.com/mid-semester, and take the workshop. And again, you'll get the recording as well as all of the resources. Thank you so much for listening to this episode or watching this episode. I will see you in the next one. Happy teaching.